One station making history every day.
Chicago, Chicago.
Now, Don, Wade, and Roma.
89
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Don, Wade, and Roma, the most positive, optimistic radio experience in the universe. Glad this morning to be able to spend a couple of minutes with Don Rumsfeld, former Secretary of Defense, author of Known and Unknown.
We have the hardbound version, but the paperback is coming out. It's already out.
Don Rumsfeld has written this book, Known and Unknown. It's a big bestseller, and it's out in a paperback now. And this is quite a guy who's written a memoir from U.S. Congressman, U.S. Ambassador to NATO, White House Chief of Staff, Special Presidential Envoy to the Middle East, Chief Executive Officer of 2 Fortune 500 companies, and the rest of the resume. I'm sorry, there's so many pages.
How about the youngest and oldest Secretary of Defense ever.
Good morning.
Hi, Donald Rumsfeld. It's good to have you again.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you folks back there in my hometown.
You graduated New Trier.
I did indeed, but it was a long time ago, 1950, if you can imagine that. I'm going to be 80 next month. That means I've lived 1/3 of the history of our country.
Wow. Well, that's quite a memoir.
Are you going to jump out of an airplane like President Bush did when he turned 80?
Well, I've done that in my life just for the fun of it, but I haven't got that on the schedule yet.
You know, I found out something watching a film a couple of days ago on HBO. It was about Ernest Hemingway. And I thought it was fascinating because it was the first time I realized that Ernest Hemingway wrote his books standing up, typing on the top of his dresser in a hotel.
And who did you think of when you saw that?
As soon as I saw it, I said, well, that's like Don Rumsfeld with his stand-up desk. You have that stand-up desk that you work.
I have since 1969. You know, it must be in the genes because I'm told that I had an Aunt Amy in Oak Park, Illinois, who was a school teacher who taught Ernest Hemingway when he was a boy in Oak Park.
Wow.
And it rubbed off on you.
Must have.
Okay, now the book is a paperback, and so that everybody knows, if you go out and buy Don Rumsfeld's book, Known and Unknown, any of the money that would ordinarily go to Don Rumsfeld doesn't. It goes to him, but it goes to the charitable foundation, which is the...
Supports
it's called
all
the
these
Rumsfeld...
Well, we put it all in military charities.
Yeah.
And to support the troops and their families and the veterans and the families of those who've fallen. And we support about 20 or 25 different military charities.
That's a wonderful thing.
And it's a great book. I want to ask you a couple of questions about the current problems that we're having. And since you have some experience in this... Why is the United States slow to intervene in Syria?
Well, clearly Syria and Iran, that axis between those two countries is considerably more important to us from our strategic interest, and indeed, I would say from the standpoint of the Middle East, than is Libya, for example. The range of things one can look at would be, one, to do nothing in Syria. Another would be to try to withdraw diplomats, try to get other countries to be helpful. That's not worked. Another would be to use some covert action and talk to some of the elements that are trying to oppose Assad and throw him out of office and see if there are people there that would be better. Obviously, I don't think the Salafists or the Muslim Brotherhood would necessarily be better. Then you keep going over towards the other end of the spectrum, and you could use some air power, as was done in Libya, or you could use troops, which I don't think is a particularly good idea given the situation there. So they've got a full range of things, and the problem you've got is Syria is being propped up by Iran and Russia, and Assad. I think it was Winston Churchill who said one time that a dictator is like riding a tiger. He's afraid to get off.
Yeah.
And you look at what happened to Mubarak, who got off. He got thrown out, but it's a funny situation. In the old days, you think about it, the Shah of Iran and Papa Doc Duvalier and Baby Doc ended up on the French Riviera or some country and were able to live their lives once they got thrown out. Mubarak, not so. He's now been sentenced to life, and I think Assad senses that that's what will happen to him, so I think he'll hold on tenaciously.
Okay, is there any chance that Assad's name is on the president's kill list?
Now, that's a fascinating question that I've never been asked, and I would have to say I doubt it. We've had a policy in the United States of not assassinating leaders of other countries, partly for a variety of reasons, one of which is to try to avoid having that happen to our leadership.
Yeah.
But Obama has made public statements that his kill list defies, and so that's been a fascinating revelation from the New York Times, hasn't it?
Well, I'm not sure it was from the New York Times. I think the New York Times is probably the White House's favorite newspaper, and it looked like it came right out of the White House.
Out of the horse's mouth.
Well, what about this Axelrod? David Axelrod now denies participating in the counter-terror discussions. The meeting they talked about was on Tuesdays. Axelrod started attending the discussions with Obama and top national security advisors. And that Axelrod started showing up on Terror Tuesday meetings. Now on Face the Nation, Axelrod absolutely denies that he was ever there.
Does that sound realistic?
I have no idea. I have no particular unique insights into the operations of the Obama White House, but it is important, I think, to recognize that to the extent your foreign policy and national security decision making becomes seen as political, you've weakened the presidency.
Yeah. What about your reaction to the administration? I don't want to say spiking the football, so to speak, but that's what people are saying about the death of Osama bin Laden, turning that into quite a celebrated event.
Yeah. Well, first, I think you have to begin with the fact that after a decade of trying to gather intelligence and find him, and then using these amazing special forces that we've developed over the past decade, and killing Osama bin Laden, it was a good thing for the world. The face of Al-Qaeda is gone, and so they deserve credit for that. I think that what really worries me is that all of the information that's been leaked about that has come out of the White House, as far as I can tell, not out of the Pentagon, not out of the CIA. And I believe that because they've supplied so many details about how our forces operate and how our intelligence works, I think it's dangerous for our intelligence community and for our special operations forces. And it's unfortunate that kind of information seems to be hemorrhaging out of the White House, I presume because they think it advantages the president.
Yeah.
I don't think you would have allowed it to happen.
All right. Well, everybody's going to run out and buy Don Rumsfeld's new book.
We encourage that.
Well, the book is new in paperback, makes it more affordable, known and unknown.
You know, there's also a website, Rumsfeld.com, with 4,000 documents that support the book, and I hope people will take a look at that as well.
Rumsfeld.com.
And RumsfeldFoundation.org. It's great. Support your military.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your service to the country and for your time this morning.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
All right.
Look forward to future visits.
Good.
Thank you. It's 8:15.
89 WLS.